If you had met me 3 years ago, you would have said I was lucky. I married a calm man, a stable man, a man who never raised his voice and never forgot an anniversary. From the outside, my life looked perfect. The house was beautiful. The future was planned. There was even a nursery painted in soft green, waiting for a child that would never come. I thought I was chosen. I thought I was loved. I didn't know I was being studied. I didn't know my habits, my fears, my independence were being measured. Know that someone could build a cage so carefully that you would decorate it yourself and call it home. By the time I understood who my husband really was, 3 years of my life had already been written in his handwriting. This is the story of how I learned the difference between love and control. I remember laughing that day, a real light laugh, the kind that comes from deep inside. I hadn't realized how long it had been since I felt that way, until Michael came into my life. He wasn't just a good man, he seemed perfect, the kind of man who opened doors without thinking about it, who remembered exactly how you take your coffee, who looked at you like you were the best thing that had ever happened to him. We met at a charity event. He was an architect, calm and confident. I was the event planner, running around trying to keep everything from falling apart. In the middle of all that chaos, he noticed me. Not just my dress or my smile, me. After that night, everything moved fast. Beautiful dates that felt like scenes from a movie. Long talks that lasted until morning. A proposal under a sky full of stars. It all felt meant to be. Our wedding was small and beautiful. We said our vows in a garden filled with sunlight. We promised forever, and I believed it. I believed forever was real with him. He was a successful guy. Everyone loved him. My friends thought I'd found a dream man. My family welcomed him like a son. With him, I felt safe. After years of feeling unsure about life and love, I finally felt settled. Like I belonged somewhere. We bought a beautiful house, filled it with plans and laughter. Everything felt carefully built, like a perfect picture of love and security. One morning, I woke up next to him with sunlight pouring into the room. His arm was wrapped around me. I felt peaceful, grateful. "I'm the luckiest woman in the world," I whispered, kissing his chest. He pulled me closer and smiled. "No, Amelia, I am." I think about those words now and they feel empty, because in that quiet, perfect moment, I had no idea that my perfect life had a crack running through it. And it was about to break. We had just celebrated our second wedding anniversary. Nothing big, just a quiet dinner at home. Michael cooked my favorite pasta and we raised our glasses to many more years. It felt simple, peaceful. His life looked perfectly put together. I used to admire how in control he always seemed. He handled everything, the bills, repairs around the house, planning, trips, even small details I didn't think about. Before him, my relationships were messy, full of broken promises and wrong choices. Loving Michael felt safe, like finally getting home after being tired for a long time. He listened when I talked about my day. He gave advice without making me feel small. Sometimes he'd bring flowers home for no reason except that they reminded him of me. Our weekends were simple but beautiful. Long walks, cooking together, browsing through little antique shops. Small moments that slowly became our life. "You really found a good one, Amelia," my friend Sarah once told me, smiling. "Don't let him go." I felt proud when she said that, grateful, certain. He used to leave me little notes in my purse, on my pillow. Short messages like "thinking of you" or "you're beautiful." Those small things meant so much to me. At the time, it made me feel chosen, special, like I was his whole world. But even then, something small was starting to feel off. Not something I could explain, just a quiet feeling. A tiny crack beneath the surface. 2 weeks later, my whole world stopped. Michael was at work. I was in the kitchen making tea, trying to calm myself down. Then the doorbell rang. I thought it was a delivery. When I opened the door, a woman was standing there. She looked older than the woman I had once seen in a photo, but I knew those eyes immediately. Big, dark, burning with something intense. She was wearing an old worn-out coat and holding a small suitcase. "Can I help you?" I asked. My voice sounded weak, even to me. She didn't answer right away. She looked at me, then past me, into the house. Her eyes stopped on the photos hanging on the wall, our wedding pictures. She let out a dry, bitter laugh. "So," she said slowly, "he replaced me with a blonde. That sounds like Michael." "Who are you?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "I'm Elena," she said calmly. Then she stepped forward, and I had no choice but to move back. "I'm the woman who owns half of this house, and I'm still legally married to your husband." I couldn't breathe. My chest felt heavy, like something was sitting on it. He told me he was never married," I managed to say. Elena walked into the living room like she belonged there. She sat down on my velvet sofa as if it was hers. "He's a liar, honey," she said, "but you probably knew that deep down. You have that look like you feel something is wrong, but you're too afraid to ask." She looked at me with pity. That hurt more than anything else. "Why are you here?" I asked. "Where have you been for 8 years?" She leaned back and closed her eyes for a moment. "Running," she said quietly, "running for my life." "From who?" I whispered. She opened her eyes and looked straight at me. "From him." That's when everything shifted. I thought I was living inside a love story, but suddenly, it felt like I had stepped into a nightmare. After Alina left, everything felt strange and unreal. It was like the world had gone quiet. Sounds felt far away. Colors didn't look as bright anymore. It was as if someone had drained the life out of everything. My hands were shaking when I called Michael. I could barely hold my phone. He answered the way he always did, warm and cheerful. "Hey, gorgeous, everything okay?" "No," I said, and my voice broke. "Nothing is okay." Told him everything about the woman at the door, her name, what she said. I tried to speak calmly, but I was crying too hard. There was a long silence on his side, too long. "Amelia," he said quietly, "I can explain." "Explain? How do you explain a secret wife? How do you explain building a whole life on a lie?" He rushed home. When he walked in, his face was pale. He looked scared and guilty, even if he tried not to show it. "She was gone," he said quickly, grabbing my hands. But his touch felt different now. Strange, cold. She disappeared. No note. Nothing. The police listed her as presumed dead. Presumed, not confirmed, not proven, just assumed. "You never told me," I whispered, pulling my hands away. "Not once." "I was protecting you," he said. His eyes looked desperate. "I loved you. I didn't want to lose you." Protect me or protect himself? He showed me old photos. Him and Elena, smiling, standing, in places I recognized. Our park, our favorite restaurant. My stomach dropped. The proof was right there in my hands. "I believed she was gone," he said, his voice shaking. "I grieved. Then I met you. You brought light back into my life. I thought she was never coming back. But she did. She came back alive." That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Every sweet word, every kiss, every promise, it all felt poised now. Not just because he lied, but because I realized I didn't truly know the man lying next to me. The man I loved suddenly felt like a stranger. I wasn't fighting his past, I was trapped inside it, and deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Michael held my hands and tried to explain. "I was young, Amelia," he said quietly. I didn't know what I was doing back then. He looked tired, almost ashamed. We met too early in life. I was confused. I thought what we had was love, but it wasn't healthy. We were both immature. We brought out the worst in each other. It was a dark time for me, he continued. I didn't know who I was yet. I made mistakes, a lot of mistakes. He told me they fought constantly, that the relationship was toxic, that he felt trapped but didn't know how to leave. When she disappeared, I was already exhausted, he said. I thought maybe it was for the best. I waited. I searched. But after years, I believed she was gone. I grieved in my own way. But you, he said, squeezing my hands gently, you came into my life when I had finally grown up. You met the better version of me, the man who knows what real love is. He brushed his thumb against my cheek. I'm not that young, confused man anymore. I'm different now. I choose peace. I choose you. I wanted to believe that people change, that the past stays in the past. But even as he spoke, part of me wondered, if he could hide something that big, what else could he hide? The next morning, Michael left for work like nothing had happened. He kissed my forehead, told me he loved me, told me not to worry. Everything is under control, he said softly. The door closed behind him, and the house felt different, quieter. Like it was holding its breath. I waited 10 minutes. Then I went back to the basement. The safe was still open where I had left it. The passport with my face and the name Claire was still sitting there, but this time I looked deeper behind the cash. Under the medical files, there was another envelope. Inside it were more passports, 3 of them. Different names, different hair colors, different states, but the same face. My knees gave out and I dropped to the floor. Each passport had a different issue date. 5 years ago, 3 years ago, last year. It wasn't a mistake. A was preparation. I opened another folder. This one didn't have my name. It had photos of women blonde brunette redhead, all roughly my age. Some of them had hospital wristbands on. Some of them looked sedated. On the back of each photo were notes written in Michael's handwriting. Unstable home? No close family? Head trauma? Memory gaps confirmed. Good candidate. Good candidate. Candidate for what? My stomach turned. I flipped through the pile. And then I saw her Elena. Her photo wasn't labeled wife. It was labeled first attempt unstable. Escaped. Double quotes, escaped, not divorced, not disappeared. Escaped. My hands began to shake so violently I thought I would pass out. This wasn't a love story. It wasn't even a messy marriage. It was a system, a pattern. Michael didn't fall in love. He selected. I thought about the accident, the one he said he found me after. What if he didn't find me? What if he caused it? The medical records from another state. What if I wasn't even supposed to survive? Or what if I survived and he saw an opportunity? Memory loss. No clear past, a blank slate. The perfect wife. I heard something upstairs. A floorboard creaked. I froze. Michael wasn't supposed to be home for hours. Slow footsteps. Above me. Slow. Unhurried. Like he wasn't worried about being caught. Because he didn't think I knew. Then his voice echoed down the basement stairs. Amelia? My blood ran cold. I forgot my wallet, he called out casually. Footsteps again, closer to the basement door. I quickly shoved the passports back into the safe, but my hands were shaking too much. The basement door handle rattled, Amelia? He repeated. His voice was calm. Too calm. I looked around for somewhere to hide. There was nowhere. The door slowly opened. He stood at the top of the stairs, smiling, that same gentle smile. The one that used to make me feel safe. You shouldn't be down there, he said softly, And suddenly I understood something with terrifying clarity. Alina didn't come back to destroy my marriage. She came back because she knew. He was ready to replace me. I sat in the dark for hours thinking about the safe, the passports, the photos of women labeled like projects. Good candidate, unstable, escaped. Elena wasn't crazy. She ran, and I wasn't chosen out of love. I was selected. My mind felt clearer than it had in years. Nothing was wrong with my memory. Nothing was wrong with my past. What was wrong was him. I heard Michael in the kitchen, making coffee, humming lightly like everything was normal. I went upstairs, washed my face, and walked into the kitchen. Amelia, he said gently. He looked calm, relaxed, like he wasn't hiding a system in the basement. I spoke to a lawyer, he continued. Alina won't cause problems for us. Make sure of that. I studied him, the careful tone, the calm face, the steady hands. Michael, I said quietly. Yes? I went into the crawl space. The humming stopped. He didn't look shocked. He looked disappointed. You shouldn't have done that, he said. I saw the passports. Silence. I saw the files on other women. His jaw tightened slightly. Elena escaped. I continued. Is that what I am? A replacement? His eyes went cold. I gave you stability, he said slowly. You were drifting before you met me. That doesn't give you the right to catalog women like property. You're overreacting, he said calmly. Too calmly. Those files are from years ago. I was researching for a project. A project? Am I part of it? That's when the smile disappeared. I choose carefully, he said. Not deny, not explain. Choose? A chill ran down my spine. And when you're done choosing? I asked. He stepped closer. I'm never done with you, Amelia. It wasn't romantic. It was ownership. And suddenly I understood. Something terrifying. The files weren't history. They were preparation. I'm not a monster, Michael said. He was walking toward me slowly. I'm a creator, he continued. I saw a woman who was lost, who didn't know what she wanted, and I helped her. I gave you structure, stability, a life you actually enjoy. Is that such a crime? You lied to me, I said. My voice was shaking. You kept files on women. You labeled them like objects. You don't choose people, I said. You control them. He was only a few inches away from me now. You were drifting when I met you, he said softly. No strong attachments. No one checking in. You were unhappy. That doesn't give you the right to redesign my life. I didn't redesign it, he said. I improved it. He reached for my hair. I flinched back. Don't touch me. His eyes darkened slightly. After everything I've given you, he said quietly, you're going to believe Elena? The woman who couldn't appreciate what she had? She says she escaped, I said. She's unstable. You labeled her first attempt. That made him pause, just for a second. The door intercom suddenly buzzed, a sharp, loud sound. We both froze. Michael walked to the wall panel and pressed the speaker. Yes? This is the police, a voice said. We received a call about a disturbance. My heart dropped. Michael slowly turned to look at me. His expression changed again, not angry, threatening. If you say anything, he said quietly, so only I could hear, think very carefully. The front door opened, 2 officers stepped inside. And behind them, Elena. She looked tired, but determined, her eyes locked onto mine. Tell them, she said, her voice was steady. Tell them what you found. Michael moved to stand beside me, not touching. Just close enough to remind me he was there. The perfect husband pose. Concerned.com. Put together. Is everything all right, ma'am? One of the officers asked me gently. My heart was pounding in my ears. I could feel the weight of everything. The basement. The safe. The other passports. The labeled photos. Good candidate. Escaped. And I could feel Michael watching me, measuring me. Calculating. If he went to jail, what evidence did I really have? The safe was hidden again, the panel closed. No visible proof. It would be my word. Against his, my voice caught. Elena's eyes were pleading now. Amelia, she said softly. You're not crazy. Michael's jaw tightened at my name. The officer repeated the question. Ma'am, are you safe? I looked at Michael. He didn't look afraid. He looked curious, like he was waiting to see which version of me would speak. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. He wasn't worried about the police. He was testing me. I swallowed. I said again, and I realized whatever I said next would decide whether I survived him. The officer looked at me again. Ma'am, are you safe? The question sounded simple, but it wasn't. Behind me, I could feel Michael standing still, calm and controlled. Elena was near the door, her eyes fixed on me. Elena shook her head. He's lying, she said. He isolates you. He controls the money. He makes you think you need him. That's enough. Michael snapped, but he quickly corrected his tone. She's unstable. She has always been unstable, ma'am, the officer said again. Are you being forced or threatened in any way? I looked at Michael. His face was calm, but his eyes were warning me. I looked at Elena. She wasn't begging anymore, she was waiting. I realized something in that moment. If I said everything was fine, the police would leave. Michael would smile. The door would close, and I would still be trapped. If I spoke now, things would explode. There would be no going back. My hands were shaken, but my voice came out steady. I'm not safe, I said. The room went silent. Michael didn't shout. He didn't move. He just stared at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. That's not true, he said quietly. Amelia, think carefully, but I had already made my choice. There are documents in the basement, I continued, hidden in the wall behind the shelves. He keeps files on me. On her. I don't know what else is there. One of the officers turned to Michael. Sir, we're gonna need you to step aside while we take a look. Michael gave a small, controlled smile. Of course, he said. I have nothing to hide. But his jaw tightened. Elena exhaled slowly, beside me. I didn't look at her. I didn't look at him. I just stood there, knowing that whatever happened next, my life would never return to the quiet, perfect lie it once was. The officers finally stepped outside after taking their statements and said they would return with a warrant. When the door closed, the silence inside the house felt heavier than when they were there. It wasn't relief, it was pressure. Michael stood in the middle of the living room, breathing hard. For a moment, no one spoke. Then he turned on Elena. You had no right, he snapped. No right to walk in here and spill everything. Elena didn't move. Your secrets were never going to stay buried forever. You're bitter, he shot back. Can't stand seeing me move on, Elena laughed without humor. Move on? You built your new life on lies. Amelia stood between them, her heart pounding, but her mind clear. The confusion was gone. Michael looked at her. You're not actually believing her. Amelia didn't answer. His jaw tightened. You think she didn't benefit? You think she wasn't part of decisions? From what? Amelia asked quietly. Control? Isolation? Don't start, Michael warned. Elena stepped forward. Tell her about the accounts. Tell her about the properties. Enough, Michael barked. He grabbed Elena's arm. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't an accident. It was force. Get out, he growled. Let go of me, Elena said. Your hands off her, Amelia demanded. Michael ignored her and dragged Elena toward the front door. The front door. It was messy and ugly, nothing like the calm man he pretended to be. This is who he is, Elena shouted. This is the part you never see at the beginning. Michael pulled the door open and pushed her outside. She stumbled but stayed on her feet. "Don't ever come back," he said. Elena steadied herself and looked at Amelia. One last time, not afraid, just certain. "He doesn't change," she said quietly, then walked away. Michael slammed the door and stood there, breathing hard. "She's manipulating you," he said without turning around. Amelia walked past him and went upstairs. "What are you doing?" he called after her. She pulled a suitcase from the closet, packing. "For what?" His voice had gone low again. "I'm leaving." He came upstairs quickly. "You're overreacting." "No," she said calmly. "I finally understand. You don't even know the full story. I know enough." He stepped closer. "You walk out that door, everything changes. You won't have this life. You won't have protection. I don't want protection that feels like a cage." She folded her clothes carefully and placed them inside the suitcase with steady hands. "You need me," he said. She zipped the bag. "I needed honesty." He grabbed the suitcase handle. "You're not going anywhere." She looked at his hand on her bag. "If you touch me again, I won't stay quiet." Something shifted in his face. Not love, not anger, calculation. He let go. She walked past him, down the stairs, through the living room that once felt warm and safe. The framed pictures were still on the walls. The furniture was still arranged perfectly. Nothing had changed. Except everything had. At the door, she paused for a second, not because she doubted herself, but because 3 years of her life were closing behind her. "Regret this," Michael said from the hallway. She opened the door. "I already regret staying," she replied. She walked out without police, without shouting, without any dramatic scene, just a woman finally, choosing herself. She did not look back immediately. When she finally did, the house looked exactly the same as it always had, quiet, neat, perfect from the outside, but now she could see it clearly. It was never a home. It was a stage. And for the first time since she stepped into it, it felt completely empty. Months passed before everything fully collapsed. The investigation reopened, quietly at first, then publicly. Old financial records were pulled. Bank transfers were examined, signatures were compared, patterns were noticed. What Michael thought was hidden inside control, and paperwork slowly began to unravel. Old financial records were pulled. Bank transfers were examined, signatures were compared, patterns were noticed. What Michael thought was hidden inside control, and paperwork slowly began to unravel. In court, he looked smaller, like a man surprised that consequences were real. He tried to explain that everything had been structured, that nothing was intentionally harmful, but the paper trail told a different story. The accounts linked back to him. The timing of the transfers showed intent. The manipulation of documents showed planning. He was sentenced, not dramatically, not loudly, just formally. Years. Reputation gone. Control gone. As for Merkel, his cooperation reduced his time, but it did not free him. The emails proved his involvement. The restructuring of assets carried his authorization. He walked into the courtroom, confident, and walked out silent. There were no heroes in the collapse, only exposure. Elena did not celebrate. She did not feel victorious. What she felt was release. The house that once felt like a cage was sold. She moved into a smaller place in another city. Somewhere no one knew her history. She started therapy. She rebuilt slowly. She learned to trust her own voice again. Hope for her was not loud. It was quiet mornings, It was peace. It was no longer having to prove she was not crazy. And Amelia, freedom felt strange at first. There was paperwork, statements, long conversations with lawyers to untangle her, name from what had been attached to it. The investigators saw the pattern. Her signatures appeared during pressure. No personal financial gain traced directly to her. Gradually, her name cleared, but emotional recovery took longer. She had to grieve not just the marriage, but the version of herself that ignored the small warnings. She moved into an apartment with white walls and open windows. No hidden doors. No locked panels, no secrets behind shelves. She returned to work. She reconnected with old friends she once slowly drifted from. Some days she felt anger, some days she felt embarrassed, but most days she felt stronger. One evening she stood on her small balcony, watching the city lights flicker on. For a moment she thought about the nursery she once painted and the future she once planned. It no longer hurt the same way, because she finally understood something important. Love is not control, protection is not ownership, and stability built on lies is never safe. She did not hate Michael anymore. Hate requires attachment. She simply saw him clearly, and clarity is freedom. Her phone buzzed with a message from Alina, just 3 words. Still moving forward? Amelia smiled softly and replied, always. The past did not disappear. It became a lesson. And for the first time in years, her life was not a stage. It was hers.